there was one time when I was just kicking back on the couch and I was reading. I was laid out on the couch and I was just reading like The Lord of the Rings. And my mom comes in the room and she like gasps all of a sudden. She's like, Jesus, you look so much like your father. I thought you were your dad. I felt both pride, like, wow, that's cool. And also like pain, like, oh no, I'm like this guy that collectively as a family we're not supposed to like. I'll wait for that truck to go by. Greetings, peers and queers. Welcome back to another episode of Monday through Friday. My name is Jacee. On today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that had happened to me years ago, a conversation that I had with my mom. And it wasn't so much a conversation as it was like my mom all of a sudden started to vent. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Here's the story. This was years ago when I was fresh out of high school, and I don't know what happened, but I was living at home, and my mom comes into the room, and she just starts going off about everything she hates about my father. My parents had been divorced since I was around 8 years old, or at least that's when they started the process of getting divorced. So we're talking, this is a number of years that they've been separated. And my mom starts going off, and I'm like, I see that she's agitated. You know, she's walking around, puffing, and just, I'm concerned. So I go over to her, and I try to see if I could help. I'm like, hey, what seems to be the issue? And she turns to me, and she says, your dad. Now, my mom and my dad had been divorced since I was like 8 or 9 years old. So they've been apart for like a while at this point. They've been apart for like over a decade at this point. And I'm like, okay. And I figure I just need to listen and let her vent. She goes, I don't like your dad. And I'm like, well, that's kind of obvious. You guys got a divorce. And she's like, no, it's not that. It's just everything that he stands for. He thinks he's so smart reading books all the time. That's when I knew that it was going to be one of those kind of conversations, because I should let you know, one of the things about my dad is that he will go through like a novel in like a week. And I'm talking 300, 400, 500 pages. Usually takes him about a week. One of the coolest things about going over to my dad's house when I was little, because again, they were divorced, he had visitation on the weekends, was he had like 3 bookshelves that were just full of novels. And every once in a while, I'd grab one off the shelf, or he'd recommend one for me, and I'd start reading it. A lot of sci-fi, a lot of fantasy, a lot of sword and board type stuff. I was an avid reader myself. I think out of my family, my immediate family living in that household, my brother, my mom, my stepdad, I was the only one who ever like really picked up books. And my mom starts going off, well, like, he used to read all the time, and I just don't understand it. So my mom goes off and she's like, he reads these books, just like always has his nose in a book. And I'm like, okay, that's not a bad thing. Oh, but it gets worse. Your dad used to read books all the time, and he always acted like he was smarter than me. Yes, my dad could be a little bit intimidating academically. My dad spoke 7 languages fluently. Spanish, French, German, English. I forget the rest. So my mom was feeling insecure because she felt intimidated by the fact that he was very smart and she was more salt of the earth. Wasn't great with spelling and mathematics. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, I get it. He made you feel inferior a little bit. I didn't say that to her, but like I'm clocking in my head. I'm like, okay. And then my mom goes, that's not even it. He was always like, I always had to be careful whenever there was like an attractive black woman around because your father would check her out. I'm like, yeah, your father, he really fancied those African girls. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm just kind of going, so that's where I get it from. Because, you know, 2 for 2 already. Okay, check and check. And then she hits me with this big one. She's like, and you know what's even worse? The grossest thing? Uh-huh. Your dad was bisexual. Yeah, he liked guys too. And he'd come over to the house and he'd bring one of his friends and stuff and they'd be hanging out. And he'd be like, hey, do you want to possibly do something together? And that right there kind of broke me because that's like a double whammy. I'm just thinking like, wait a minute. I'm bisexual. I'm polyamorous. That right there kind of broke me a little bit. Essentially, and this part I said out loud. This part wasn't just internal monologue. I said to my mom, hey, that's great and all. You realize that I'm bisexual, right? We've already had this discussion. By the way, this was pre-Jacee. This was back in boy mode. I'm like, I've told you, I came out to you. Like, I'm bisexual too. And you're dogging on my dad, saying that that lifestyle is gross or that something's wrong with him. Meanwhile, I'm standing here and you're saying, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. That's me. You're describing stuff that I have in common with this guy. So is it the fact that it's him? Or is it the fact that you don't like people who are like him? Because, hate to break it to you, I'm a lot like him. I am a lot like my dad in that way. And in other ways. I knew that my dad was an avid reader. I knew that my dad was bisexual. I didn't know that he had a preference that way when it came to women. Okay, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree on this one. I don't agree with it. He's gross. No guy shit. That really pissed me off. You know? Though my dad had a lot of cool things about him and things that I saw in myself, in him, like I can see where I got certain things from. You know, my height, because I'm rather tall. I'm like 5'9", 5'10". Short for a guy, tall for a girl. Just the fact that my mom was like bordering racist with the whole, oh, well, your dad likes black girls. I'm like, okay, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And then her to go, oh, well, your dad's bisexual too. And like, that's gross. I'm like, you're calling me out on stuff. Side story, there was one time when I was just kicking back on the couch and I was reading. I was laid out on the couch and I was just reading like The Lord of the Rings. And my mom comes in the room and she like gasped all of a sudden. She's like, Jesus, you look so much like your father. I thought you were your dad. I felt both pride, like, wow, that's cool. And also like pain. Oh no, I'm like this guy that collectively as a family we're not supposed to like. Collectively as a family we're all supposed to be against him. It's like this household against this guy. As I matured, I realized that my dad wasn't the most terrible father out there. Did he not get along with my mom? Yes. But as I matured, I started seeing it from his point of view and I'm like, she wasn't an easy woman to get along with by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't mean that in like a very negative way. I'm just saying sometimes she could be a little bit infuriating and a little bit problematic. My dad could too. My dad had his faults as well, namely substance abuse in the form of alcoholism and certain club drugs. So my dad had his problems too. Also, before the divorce, my dad was cheating on my mom with another woman. So that's shitty. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, and I'm not going to like ignore that part of it. But as she was venting, my mom had come out and said, I don't like your father, and these are the reasons why I don't like your father. It wasn't the fact that he cheated. He was an alcoholic. Like, I think she had worded it as like, well, your dad's not a real man, he's bisexual. Okay, so you're against that when I've already came out to you. That was a turning point for my mother and I's relationship. And I don't even think she really realized it. That was a turning point in my mind, in my heart. She just said that these things I cannot stand for. Later on, there was other stuff. I mean, like, one more thing I forgot to mention. Years later, after I'd already came out as Jacee, I was getting some things from my mom's house. She had allowed me to come over and get my dressers and get my old childhood bed because I was moving to a new apartment. I'm like, hey, I need to come over. I need to grab these things, and then I'm out of your hair. We were waiting for the moving van that I had paid for. She's not talking to me. It was awkward. Then the moving van shows up and a crew of 3 people, this one gal and then the 2 guys, the one head guy for this moving team comes up and he's got a Trump t-shirt on. And when I say a Trump t-shirt, I mean it was a black shirt with Donald Trump wearing the red hat, riding a bald eagle, fireworks going off in the background. And my mom all of a sudden just breaks into, "Oh my God, I love your shirt." So I'm trying to be like, hey, I'm Jacee. I'm the one that you're going to be helping move. I've got dressers upstairs. And my mom cuts me off and starts going, yeah, I just absolutely love that man. Oh, do you want to see pictures of my grandkids? I don't have kids. My brother has kids. And my mom, I don't know how she did it. It seemed organic, but she's just like showing off pictures, scrolling on her phone. And mind you, these guys are getting paid by the hour. Oh, look, here's pictures of my grandbabies. I love my grandbabies almost as much as I love Trump. So that's the kind of person that my mom is. She knows in her head that she's never going to get grandkids out of me. I was literally just going to go get my stuff, and then I was going to get out of there. And she's like, oh, I just love him. He's going to be the greatest president ever. He's a man of the people. He cares about women and children. Bruh. So yeah, that's the type of person that I chose to live with. I should have gone and lived with my dad. It's just as you get older, as you mature as a person, you start to realize who your real supporters were. And especially as like a queer person or a trans person, you start to realize who really had your back. And I've been thinking about it pretty hard for the past couple of months, how things would have been different had I just said, you know what, Mom, I'm going to go live with Dad. Because we did have a lot more in common, my father and I, than I did with my mother or that I did with my brother. But I chose to throw my hat in with my mom and my brother because I thought, okay, family unit, got to hold on to what we got here. And I don't think that was the right choice. I honestly think that if I could have done things differently, I would have just gone to live with my dad. When my brother and I used to go visit my dad, we'd watch shows together. We'd cook a meal, he'd cook a meal, and we would watch some television as we were eating. And oftentimes it was like, the Sci-Fi Channel. And we'd watch shows like Xena, Warrior Princess, or Lex, or Farscape, Quantum Leap, stuff like that. Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I really enjoyed that. But talking with my brother, he's like, man, Dad watches some dumb stuff. Like my brother just didn't get it, or it wasn't his type of thing. But I ate it up. I absolutely loved it. I loved the stories. And it was something that my dad and I could talk about. Like, hey, remember that last episode of The Highlander?
The Highlander was a documentary, and the events happened in real time. There can be only one!
My dad had a lot more going on up here. And though I didn't get to, introduce him to Jacee, I never got the chance to be like, this is me. I like to think that he would have understood. Somewhere in my gut, it's saying that your dad would have just immediately been like, so what do I call you? And that would have been that. So that's my story. I'm not looking for sympathy or anything. This is just me airing my grievances. This is just me venting. I miss my dad. And at that point, when my mom started to talk about him, and it clicked finally that, like, wow, I'm a lot like my dad. And wow, you hate him for these things. You're really saying that you don't understand me. Thank you for watching. If you've watched all the way to the end, I appreciate it. I do put out new videos every Saturday, so look forward to that. Have a good one. Bye.